It's April 19th, 2022. Just for depth perception, around 1955, countryman from Italy, not so exotic, not so extreme, but Italy, borderline Austria. It is allowed or comes over. I don't know his purpose, why he was here, whether there was work, family, whatever, I'm not quite sure. But on one side of, like, say, like a Goo Goo doll situation, he was here. The other one had relatives in Iowa in a zip code and town of Gundar, which is the family, I guess, Valkyrie. I don't know much on them either. So there's two potential whatever for next gen. One's in Empire State. The other one is in whatever Iowa is considered, I don't know. But Staples and Angelina came from West Virginia. They went to Italy and then they came back. But they look like Mount Rushmore. They look like what's on the green linens. They look whatever the us is here in America or North America for the North Face. Now, for Lewis's around 1950s, his education was whatever it was. It does not seem significant for me because it was not able to get his daughter to where she needed to be. Linda's the same as far as I'm concerned. So that is on the onus of the land, the ownerships and the leadership for failure to launch into the correct direction and take care of their offspring for platforms and rolling projects forward. As far as the receivership of when I entered the state educational system here in Empire State, Big Apple, New York, there was a late change in venue. It was whatever it was, but it also failure to launch into correct marriage and into correct livelihood and pathway to success. Now I'm watching, so there was, for me, the educational system was not in a prepared state for the Rushmore relatable and ancestral binds for management and for reporting and for whatnot. And then subsequently, there was something that was going on elsewhere. And then large shipments of not us into the us. But the us was unprepared for receivership because the us was not in a educate state. They were already inundated and flooded from generations before. And then new blooms and new blossoms and new, like the garden was already full. But there were things going on outside. And then there were these large ratios of, and nobody explains or has been having active meetings with where are these coming from, what does this mean, what are the potential pitfalls, what are the advantages, how is this going to work? There's been no communication whatsoever. Today, it's April 19th, 2022. I'm watching CBS This Morning, and it's showing me in a state called Chicago, which is within the interior between the Empire State and what the Empire State has as an interior. It shows some of the more recent wars and some of the more recent movements of people into the area, which, again, this is the first time I'm actually hearing it, and that it actually has contextual, but also the people that were already here, myself, my children, felt lost in these areas, in these parts. And then more are coming in, and they have better, because they're considered refugee, they have better orchestration and better grouping methods and better cellular mechanics to like gain access to one another and organically cluster, which then causes more scary problems based on the fact that this, whatever, there was problems there. Now they're giving like rise to possibility of problems here by helping orchestrate and organize, but yet keeping apart the Mount Rushmore children. That's even more frightening.
Our audience will say they'll be tweeting about it.
Yeah.
Tweet us later on. Let us know what you saw.
Let's see who wins in that one.
Okay, now, turning to an issue that is gaining a lot of attention because of the war in Ukraine.
Yes.
The conflict is spotlighting the struggles that many refugees face putting down roots in a new country. More than 3.1 million refugees from around the world now live in the United States.
And I'm not speaking of Ukraine. Put Ukraine to the side for a moment, because they didn't even highlight Ukraine in here. This is just now Ukraine is sparking this conversation, because from what I've seen, Ukraine is closer to a Mount Rushmore than some of these other.
In both 2020 and 2021, about 12,000 new refugees were admitted. Many of them are children. Adriana Diaz spoke with a group of young refugees living in Chicago who are part of a community called REACH. They talked about a similar...
Now, I don't really see resemblance. That's not Mount Rushmore. This is Afghanistan's representative. This is the representative from Burma or Myanmar. This is from a place I don't even know how to pronounce. This is from Syria. And this is from Syria. So they're able to put this program together for all of this to enter here, for them to have semblance, grow roots, and so on and so forth. But yet, where's the oversight and where's the preparation for the receiving and for people like myself and my children, since we are not familiar with any of this, and we also have to be able to live our own lives, but yet we're struggling with that, and now there's more coming in, things that don't look familiar at all. Like, where is the leadership and responsibility on that end, that they're able to put something like this together, like, real quick, but yet they've gone years of total ignorance of what's here and not putting something together to help out someone like myself and my children. Just curious how that works.
Relating to the United States and their memories of the countries they used to call home.
What I do remember is sound of gunshots, sound of pain.
Now this is the symbol. And again, I don't know what that means because there's no teachings here for us on the receivership end.
Sound of people stuck in the war for 40 years. That's all I remember from Afghanistan.
In Burma, there...
Now this is what they're saying is Burma. I mean, this is the first time I've had anything put together like this, with a face, with symbols. I mean, why is it 43 years, 4 decades, I'm here, and this is the first time?
There is military coup, so we can't go back to Burma.
Mohammed, do you remember what it was like in Syria or why you guys left?
We left because there was a lot of war.
Here's what this is.
war, and it wasn't pleasant. Lots of shooting.
To hear children speak so plainly about war and human suffering is not easy.
We came to the U.S. because my mom wanted like a better education and just life in general.
Whatever this is looks like this. But now again, we're in no preparation to know what their likes, dislikes, what might put us in danger. They come from a war-torn territory into a peaceful situation. I mean, peaceful situation is struggling, and now you're adding war-torn motives into a struggling, peaceful situation.
My name is Noor, and my intention for today was to learn more about animals.
But despite the odds, these kids have found hope and bonds with each other through the similar stories of their parents' sacrifice. How hard was
Who sponsors these children? And where are my sponsors, being that I'm from here?
it for you guys to get used to life here in Chicago and making American friends and learning the culture?
When you step out, there's nobody really you can talk to. There's nobody you can share your feelings to. You feel.
Guess what? When you're born here, it's the exact same situation. Unless your parents are a part of something, there's no one. There's no one on the streets, there's no one in these neighborhoods, and then they're filling up with all of this, which is not them. Now that gets confusing, how to sustain and how to find a pathway to success. While this is being afforded pathways to success, where is the natural and the locals?
You feel very, very.
It feels very forced out, or a forced genocide, or forced out breeding of some sort.
Very, very alone.
It was hard because we didn't really know any English, so we couldn't communicate.
Not to worry, even when I know the English, the humans don't always make sense to me.
unfamiliar language, culture, and unspoken societal rules keep many refugees in their homes. But so much time indoors can deepen feelings of isolation, especially for kids.
I was a little bit depressed because I literally couldn't do anything except stay at home. But as I talked more in school, I started making more friends and I started explaining my feelings.
Because what happens when you keep your feelings bottled up?
You won't make friends if you don't open your emotions or talk to anyone.
Getting kids to open up and socialize is the goal of REACH, a nonprofit in Chicago that connects refugee youth through activities.
I was approached by several members of the local refugee community. They were worried because a lot of their sons and daughters were facing a lot of academic failure, social isolation, bullying.
I want us to think about a couple of things that you want to try to find.
Shauna Wills has worked with the refugee community here in Chicago for more than 30 years, and she knows that.
That's frightening. That's a lot of people coming in that weren't anticipated for. I mean, who's working at planning and developing stages and so on and so forth in set designs and keeping whatever needs to be kept in a safe position? It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxies, Broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.